Hey man, don't be smoking in the boys' room. Come here and start smoking in Networking 101. You know, one of the biggest threats that are really out there facing, network guys today is DDoS, right? You won't see a security report that doesn't have some type of DDoS in it. And the truth is that this is a very massive, huge umbrella term that covers so many different ways to get into the network. But what it really amounts to is break the word down in half, right? Or actually not even in half. D stands for distributed. This really means that I'm coordinating a whole bunch of other computers out here to actually run a program or run some type of, not really compromise, but some type of nuance type of attack that's going to tie up resources. One is just pretty hard to do that. But if we can get a farm, a big community in, then we can distribute this load, if you will, into causing a denial of service attack. Now, denial of service attacks, they've been around for years, right? I mean, and just about anything can cause it. A lot of us, if we're just starting to do networking, are probably familiar with making our very first denial of service attack, and that is taking Ethernet and plugging it into what we thought would be a redundant type of loop, and found out that, oops, now we got some real problems here because the network starts to chew itself up, and you've created your own DDoS and have really ate up those resources. But this is a really good thing to remember when you're looking at what DDoSes are, is that the point of them is to tie up system resources so they can't do anything else. It locks up the network. Now, there's a few ways to defend against this, but like any good hacker out there, they're always finding ways kind of around that. And I can sit here and go through terms like push-ack type of attacks where you're sending very complex attacks that chew up a lot of system resources and stuff. But there's so many of them that we can sit here and read acronyms like crazy. I'm going to show you one that is a new variant of the DDoS that I think is pretty cool and is really taking kind of the world by storm. Now, DDoSes themselves, even in here, there are a bunch of different categories. And what we're looking at is that the most common DDoS attack right now is actually going through HTTP, right? Through some type of HTTP type of exploit, whether you're using SSL, you're using hash attacks. We're seeing about 80% of our attack surface for DDoS comes through HTTP. Nothing wrong with the protocol, it's just how they're being delivered. So, a couple things to consider here. One of the ways that when people are looking at this is that you're thinking about, to chew up a lot of system resources, you have to just pound it. Use all these devices out there to send all this data in as fast as they can and overwhelm the circuits, and then, all of a sudden our performance dips. That's one way to do it. Another way is to look at how equipment is designed. What is our internal resources like? And so what we're doing is hackers are getting smart and they're saying, hey, you know what? If you look at the tables inside of these servers, these devices and stuff, they can only hold so much room. And so what you can do is you can actually send your attacks very slow. And one of my favorite tools out there to do this is a tool called Solaris. And Solaris actually allows you to send a very slow pace of attack that's designed to keep the tables full. And so you start eating up a lot of information, processing stuff. And this is becoming more and more popular. And probably one of the ones that's really kind of catching my attention more than anything else is an attack that actually uses this same type of methodology, but it's using collision hashing that's going to allow and say that it's telling these HTTP web servers that they got a hash problem and they need to computate and figure out where all these problems are happening and start redoing these hashes. Well, you guys know that anytime you're doing type of crypto or any type of calculations like that, it eats up a ton of resources. And so now we can get this web server to start chewing on, recalculating all these hashes in the table, then oops, now you've caused a massive attack on the network. And one of the things that I've seen done before and even tested, and it works pretty darn good, is actually using something like a mobile phone, a mobile device, and actually running this attack and chewing up a 10 gig network in just minutes. I mean, Me and a couple other guys did this and actually chewed up an i7 Intel processor for about an hour, having it recomputate all these hashes up there and stuff. So it's a very, very common attack, slow hashing break-ins, but that's a new way of doing denial of services. These attacks, DDoSes, they're going to be around forever. It's something we got to deal with. It's something we have to stay on top of. No matter what equipment you look at putting on your network, if it's security facing, you need to look at what type of protection against DDoSes that it gives you and what type of ability does it have to upgrade to keep up to date with these. These are every bit as bad as viruses today. DDoSes keep advancing and they keep chewing up resources because we're getting really good at protecting our data is what it really amounts to. So if I can't get in and steal your data, I'm going to make it so you can't use it and bring your business down, that type of stuff. And some people are even using these type of DDoS attacks for click generation, right? To actually have a bunch of different devices click on certain files to actually overwhelm that way. It's crazy. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. Keep this in mind. When you're designing your network out for security and you're looking for the stuff, a lot of people are looking at viruses or looking at hackers and stuff, and they tend to put these as old school. These are as new school as it gets. DDoS attacks are one of the biggest security threats that we face on the network today, and it's probably one of the ones that I end up chasing more than anything else. Take a look.